Welcome to Park City, Utah, the site of the 2021 Sundance Film Festival. And as you can see, I'm out front of a prestigious theater that is screening my first movie in my 2021 Sundance Film Festival experience. And right now it is ball-shrinkingly cold outside, so let's head in and give you a tour of inside. As you can see, this is one of the bigger auditoriums at the Sundance 2021 Film Festival. It can seat upwards of 7 people. Wow! That's crazy, right? Well, unfortunately for me, my festival experience will not be taking place in this gigantic auditorium that we have. It'll actually be in a smaller, dingy broom closet I call my room. I mean, a smaller theater. So let's check that out. You may notice a bed in the middle of this auditorium. Don't worry, no fornication will take place on the bed. No one's coming over, and I'm very single. So this is mainly a place where I lay down and cry and contemplate where my life went wrong. Unless I'm watching movies from the 2021 Sundance Film Festival, this is going to be my seating area for the 2021 Sundance Film Festival, where I take in all of the acclaimed movies coming out of Sundance this year. Isn't it just a great spot? As you can see, it's almost 8. You can totally see that. And the first movie I'm seeing is at 10 p.m. So we're gonna have to wait a little bit. So I'm just gonna say, I'll see ya in about 3 hours when the movie's over. We'll meet back right here and I will review Censor. So, see you soon. So, day one of Sundance is over. I only saw one movie, and that movie was Censor, and let's talk about it.
Censor is my debut feature, and it's a psychological horror set in 1985 against the backdrop of social hysteria surrounding video nasties in the UK.
So Censor is a movie that is about a film censor in the UK during the video nasties craze of the early 80s, which, if you don't know, is a subsection of movies that were unrelegated in the 80s. They were able to release on a loophole so that they didn't have to go through the review process. These video nasties, they didn't have to get censored, essentially. So they found a loophole and were able to distribute their movies without regulations. Right at the beginning, she's sort of this calm, collected, analytical person who's very professional, and then she sees a movie that sort of disturbs her because it seems eerily close to what happened in her real life, and then she just completely unwinds. And that character is pretty archetypal for horror movies. It's nothing new, it's nothing different, it's nothing particularly interesting either. I didn't particularly love the character, the main character of this. None of the characters really are that interesting, but they didn't need to be per se, because this is more of a story-driven movie. It's more of a themes-driven movie, which we can get into in a minute. But I do wish that there was a little bit more oomph behind the character, because it is just, the first 20 minutes is just scene after scene of her either talking with her parents about her sister, or reviewing a movie and being analytical about it, and then going home, and then someone creeps on her, and then she reviews a movie, and then she goes home, and then talks to her parents. It feels a little bit standard, it feels a little bit repetitive. The beginning of this I really didn't connect with, and I was nervous that I was gonna come on here and say I didn't like it. The opening movie of the festival I didn't like. I was actually very nervous about that. For some reason it feels different talking about this movie. I mean, I've only been to the film festival once and only ever seen one movie at a film festival, so this is a different experience and it feels odd, but whatever, that doesn't matter.
The story follows a film censor called Enid Baines, who spends her days classifying these violent films. One day at work, she sees a scene in a film that speaks directly to her sister's disappearance when they were children.
And then there are scenes that feel like they don't go anywhere. There's a scene when she goes to a producer's house to figure out who made the movie that kind of unnerved her, and then it just ends and then she goes somewhere else. There's a lot of scenes like that where she goes somewhere and then something happens and it doesn't really matter, and then she goes somewhere else and gets the information she wanted to get from them somewhere else. So I found that a little frustrating, especially in the first half. And The cinematography, I think, could have been better. I think some of the technical aspects could have been better with this. The movie is a pretty stylish movie, but not because of the cinematography. It's actually pretty standard, pretty flat, pretty bland even. There's not a lot of interesting shots. It's more like the lighting is interesting, that type of thing. Cinematography's not the best. And the music, I wish was more. I wish there was more behind the music, because it seems to be relegated to the sideline with this just sort of droning ambience. And it didn't feel like that helped this vibe of the movie at all. It just is kind of there, and sometimes it's in the scene and it doesn't affect the scene in any way. You could have just not had it. So the music, the cinematography, and the repetitive nature of the first half are all things I didn't much care for. And the characters, they're a little wishy-washy for me. But I still enjoyed this movie a lot. I think this movie really comes together in the last half of it or so, mainly the last act. It actually feels like a short, and it seems like this is a short that this director has made before. There's another short that I've done no research on. I just saw it say a poster for it that says nasty, and it seems similar to the movie. So it seems like she's made a short of this to make this feature, and the last 30 to 40 minutes feel like they could just be a short movie. The context that is set up in the first half is largely unimportant. And I say that very lightly because, of course, the context sets up the ending. But again, the repetitive nature of it just doesn't help at all. But it really comes together at the end, and the themes really cement. It has a really wonderful ending that I enjoyed. I don't want to spoil it, but I will say the main theme of the movie seems to be the effects on reality or no effect on reality that entertainment has, which is sort of a topic that gets tossed around all the time. You can go back to any mass shooting of the past decade or so, and they'll link the shooting to video games, or in the case of this movie in the 80s, they link violence to the video nasties. And that's sort of the big theme of this movie and what it's exploring, the effects of entertainment on personality. And from what it seems to be saying, right at the end, it kind of drives this home, is that there really isn't an effect. There is only an effect if you believe it. And that's what the movie really nails home at the end, because there is a shift between reality and fantasy in this. It blurs the line really well. There's even a moment when the aspect ratio shrinks in to emulate a video nasty aspect ratio, and there's parts when it's shot on video, it seems. So it starts to emulate the video nasties, and then it shifts between reality and fantasy near the end, and it nails that home, where it's basically, you get two endings, essentially. You get a dark midnight movie ending, and then you get a very idealized ending as well that kind of coincide with each other, and that's all I'll say about that. But there's even a moment when a guy literally falls through a TV, which is pretty ham-fisted if you ask me. A guy getting killed, falling through a TV. I mean, come on now.
When she decides to investigate the film's director, she's propelled on a journey that will blur fiction, reality, and memory. I'm fascinated by this period of moral panic in UK history that surrounded horror, and I'm also a massive fan of the films that came out of this era. So what's been really exciting about making Censor is to create the films within the film, which are lurid and heightened and have allowed me to play with horror conventions.
There's some social commentary in here, there's some entertainment commentary in here that I really enjoyed. But not only that, I think the style of this is actually strong, really strong. The direction of this is very strong for a feature, because especially at the end with this alternate reality or blending between fantasy, it all has a strong vision to it that I enjoyed. And even the color grading, the sets, the costumes, it all is very period accurate as far as I can tell. They reduce the contrast in the image and then color grade it to kind of even look like something from that era that I enjoyed. It's like a stylistic homage to movies from that era about movies from that era. So I really enjoyed that. And I think the central performance here is great. I don't remember her name. I'm not sure I'm familiar with her, but she nails this performance. She's great in it. Watching the unraveling of her character is very interesting because of that performance. She really delivers a strong performance. So that's Censor. I'm trying not to say too much about it, but I want to kind of get into a little bit here and there. And overall, I'd probably give this a 6 or a 7. I mean, again, I really lean into these movies, so I lean towards a 7. I'll probably give it a 7 because the ending is so great. But you do have to kind of stick with it to get to the good stuff. So whenever it comes out, if it comes out, I would recommend seeing it. So that's it. Bye-bye.